On this week's episode, Black Widow stings hard at the box office. We take a walk down Fear Street. And is Atari making a comeback? All this and more as we once again delve into the pop culture cosmos. And we're back with another episode of the Pop Culture Cosmos. This is Gerald Glasser from Pop Culture Cosmos, Game Source, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, and the Lakers Fast Break. We truly appreciate everyone out there listening to all of our shows. And if you can, please give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Plus, if you can like, share, subscribe, follow, or do anything that you can to support us right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos, Humanican Media, and everything that we do at popculturecosmos.com, it is sincerely appreciated. But it wouldn't be a Pop Culture Cosmos without my good friend. He's our own Josh Culture Cosmos for popculturecosmos.com. You got to check out what he's doing today at Humanican Media, popculturecosmos.com, and everywhere else you can find him, including the Super BS Gamescast, and of course his amazing book, which you can get right now. Congratulations, You Suck, and that is available at Barnes & Noble and Amazon. It is my good friend. It is Josh Peterson. What's up, man?
What is up? Speaking of congratulations, You Suck, the first run of books is going to be over in May as I shop the title around probably at another publisher. So if you guys haven't got a first edition copy yet, you might want to jump on that.
Does the digital copy count, or is that like a first edition, or how does that work for digital? Because that's what I have.
Like digital copies kind of don't have their collector value, you know?
Well, somebody was supposed to send me a review copy. I remember way back when. So.
No, I still have it in this closet over here. I just haven't sent any of them out.
That's okay. That's okay, my friend. All is good. That's good. I read it myself already, so I have a lot of great things to say about it, even if it's not a hard copy. But we are going to have a great episode. I just want to mention first off that later in the program, our good friend, Mr. Castle PCC, Marcus de la Garza, the host of the Friday show, the PCC Multiverse, he's going to stop by. He has a chat with Daniel Demarin, his good friend. They're going to talk about the Nintendo OLED Switch, and also as well a little bit about America, the Motion Picture, a little bit about the Mitchells and the Machines that I had a chance to both see back to back, and he was so amazed by it that he had to go ahead and take on that challenge himself. Plus a little bit about what Daniel is doing with the amazing podcast that he's part of, the Vast Horizon podcast. That's coming a little bit later in the program. But Josh, I know you had some tidbits you wanted to go ahead and talk about. We are going to also talk about, again, Black Widow. There will be some spoilers, just letting everybody know. Plus, we're going to be talking Fear Street, The Witcher Season 2, and What If. But you've got some tidbits you want to throw at people out there first.
Yeah, I got some quick cuts I want to hit real quick. Quick cuts. Just walking into the booth for some quick cuts, you know.
There you go. There you go.
All right. So first one I want to hit here is earlier this week, a copy of Legend of Zelda, a sealed copy of Legend of Zelda, sold for $870,000.
Chump change until earlier today when I reported on the Pop Culture Cosmos that a copy of Nintendo 64, Super Mario 64, for the Nintendo 64 just dropped and sold for $1.5 million, buddy.
Okay, so yes, and that was the next thing I was going to hit here. It has a 9.8 rating from WATA, and they're the people that rate the, they rate games.
Wait, I mean, let me ask you this: how do you differentiate from a 9.8 to a 10?
So that's what I was going to ask, because I just went on eBay, right, and I looked up sealed copies of Super Mario 64. Granted, the first run has the red stripe on the box, right, as opposed to the second printing that has the gold or silver stripe or whatever it is. But you look at those, and there are WATA rated games on there, but it's at like an 8.8 or an 8.7. So how do you tell? Is it the condition of the box? Like if I were to go, in hindsight, if I were a kid and I bought a copy of Super Mario 64, I bought myself 2 copies because I was like, one day this is going to be a collector's item. So if I bought myself 2 copies of Super Mario 64, put one into a drawer, never touched it, would it still hold its value today? Would, if I opened it, if I not opened it, but if I left it in the drawer and then finally opened the drawer in 2022, and no, it's 2021, right? It's
Today is 2020. Welcome to 2021.
Okay. I know I'm all over the place, man. But if I like say nothing happened, nothing like was set on top of the box, nothing, there was no damage to the box whatsoever. It was just covered in dust. Would it still be? Would it be a 9.8 or could it be a 10? Like what? I don't
First
know.
of all, it has to be sealed. It has to be sealed, or that's the deal breaker right there as far as between a certain level on WATA and a certain level below.
Right.
I think the 9.8 to a 10, you know, somebody would have to come on the show from WATA to tell us what the difference the minute difference there. But you're talking about something that was literally taken out of the box or shipped by Nintendo.
Yeah.
You know, and went to the store, literally taken out of the box of the store, hung up at a store, ready to go, and had to been ready to go as far as on the shelf. You take it off the shelf, and literally the second you bought it, and you got it all tendered out, and you went ahead and did that, you had to just go ahead and just put it, like you said, in the drawer, safekeeping, nice and tidy, everything right there for you. It had to be something where you literally just took it from the store to that drawer, right? You were talking about, and kept it in safe, almost an airtight situation there. It's just amazing how something like that happens. I mean, with a card, baseball card is kind of different, because even back then, when I was collecting right around then, and I have some stuff here from that era, I mean, then there was still individual cards that were sealed, or that they were packaged, or things of that nature, or you kept it in a nice sealed set, or things of that nature. With the video games, how many people are actually going to keep sealed video games at that point in time? I wasn't going to. I was going to open everything up.
Yeah, well, no one has that hindsight, right? I think a lot of these sealed copies are people who like either ran game stores, or they had purchased copies for resale, or
they just bought them and forgot.
They just bought them and forgot about them. You know, my mom does that every year. She'll buy a bunch of Christmas presents, and then 6 months later, I'll get half of those Christmas presents because she forgot she bought them. So it's such a funny thing, because you're right. People buy, anyone who games on a budget, right? So no one ever thinks to buy 2 copies. But like, I'm at that point now where I'm like, well, maybe I should buy 2 copies. Granted, the value of video games now, like it's, you open a copy of Assassin's Creed, it immediately drops $30. You know, like you don't think about things like that. But if you look at like JRPGs, like the Ys franchise, right, or the Atelier games, like they become collector's items immediately. You know, you buy a copy like of Ys 9, Monster from Nox on the Switch, and probably in about a month or two, it's going to be worth $80. And
limited run games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So they do the same thing. They put out a limited run amount of games for a specific title, but then again, a lot of those titles are indie games, so they don't usually get that kind of buzz or anything of that nature. But every once in a while, they will have one that was a hit in a digital format, and if you have a limited run hard copy, it could be somewhat valuable. That's for now, but it's harder and harder to find games now that will be collective items. But from the past, I mean, as our friends at Retro City Games would tell you, I mean, there's still stuff there that they get in that are extremely valuable, that are worth quite a bit of money.
Yeah, exactly. Like, even some of that old signage that stores used to have for like Nintendo and Sega and stuff like that stuff.
Oh, the PlayStation signs. They were selling 2 earlier this week that are valued over $500 and $700.
Yeah. They fetch a pretty, a pretty penny for a lot of that stuff. It's just, literally, if you want to be someone that has that kind of, thing in their collection, you're just someone who has the money to buy anything and everything. There's no way to know what's going to be a valued collector's item and what's not, especially in today's market, because all these games here are, like I said earlier, they lose value the moment that you cut that seal, and even sealed, you're looking at games that come out at a price point of $60, and they immediately, within a week or two, you see them drop down to $40. So look at Mario Golf is a weird example, I guess, but that came out at a price point of $60. So it was what, 3 weeks ago?
Yeah.
And it's already had a $10 price cut.
Very strange indeed. But there are more quick cuts that you have in store for us, correct?
I got some more quick cuts for you. The Nintendo Switch OLED system was announced, so that happened. Next
we
quick
talked
cut
about it on Friday.
Yeah. So this one's weird. It's funny how like Nintendo kind of had their hands full with this one. So everyone was expecting like this Pro model Switch that had 4K and all that. Nintendo didn't even like hint that something like this was going to happen. They didn't, or they hinted there would be a new Switch model, but they didn't say anything about like, hey, it's going to have up-res or 4K resolution, or it's going to be able to load your games a lot faster. Their CEO, or at least of Nintendo in America, had said, yeah, we're always on the lookout for new tech like that, but it's a big question of whether we want to release it for this generation or save it for our next generation. So that alone led me to think that, it's not going to be what people think it is. So they announced this OLED Switch. It's coming out in October, I think the release date was.
October 8th.
Yeah, and that's really all it is. It's an upgraded battery, a new screen, and like the media.
Better kickstand. Don't forget the better kickstand.
A better kickstand. If you're one of those people that presses down really hard on things, they the media is like losing their minds over this because everyone's all mad that this is not like the big the quote unquote Switch Pro. And it makes me wonder if Nintendo meant to announce this, because it's coming out alongside Metroid Dread. So it makes me wonder if they were planning to release this or announce it at E3, and then with all those rumors circulating about what it was going to be like, they're like, oh, maybe this would, because it's not what people think it is, this would diminish what the excitement around Metroid Dread. So it's this is not a situation of their making yet. This is just what the media has done, and now it just makes Nintendo look bad. It's kind of sad.
Well, I mean, for someone out there that is going to be searching for Nintendo Switch, it may be their only option. It is $50 more expensive, a little larger screen, OLED. If everybody remembers the PlayStation Vita and how the colors popped on that, I used to have a Vita with the OLED screen. I used to love it as far as the sharpness is concerned. They'll have that option and capability, but the games themselves won't be any more powerful or run faster on it. But at least to have a better battery, smaller, quality of life things that are added onto it. If you want to hear the thoughts of what Daniel and Marcus are going to talk about, they're going to Marcus will want, if you want to hear their thoughts, Daniel and Marcus on it, they'll be talking about it later in the show. But yeah, I don't see it as a big thing, especially if you have a Nintendo Switch already. But for those that are looking for one, it might be the only one that's available, and it's $50 more expensive.
Yes, yeah, and it's again, it's not like a junky model. It is nice.
No.
It's a nice looking thing. It's just not. It's not what the media wanted, and I think that's.
Well, it's not what the fans wanted either.
Yeah, exactly.
So the next time you put Skyrim in there, and again, it's still
if you're playing
along. There you go.
I mean, if you're playing Skyrim on the Switch, that's a whole other conversation we got to have about why.
That's it's a port city, but not very good port city.
Yeah.
So next cut.
Next cut. I got like three more here.
Okay, let's burn through them. Quick cuts.
Atari announced that they are going to be moving away from mobile games. So the freeware. So they had recently announced that they're going to be splitting their company into one half's going to be handling NFTs, which no one really cared about in the first place. I don't know, this NFT like blockchain business is such a, I don't know, it's sad to me. Like Sega's doing it. Like it's I know it's supposed to be, these things are supposed to hold value and all that, but when you are, it takes such manpower to create. So it's just, it makes me sad for like these gaming companies who are like, yeah, we're going to start working on NFTs, and that's going to diminish the power going into other parts of the of game development,
and also the environment and water supply. But who cares about that, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's clearly.
Yeah, exactly. Got to make those NFTs, I guess.
I know. I want to segue into something else, but I want to finish what I'm going about Atari.
Well, let me just, Atari, yes.
Yeah. So Atari is, they announced they're going to be moving back into premium content. So they just had the Atari VCS come out to lackluster reviews. But some of this content they're making is going to be. I
think you're being very generous when you say lackluster.
People don't like it. And it's $300, so. Whatever you want, whatever you're thinking, if you want to spend that money, that's up to you. But they have announced that they're going to be making new games. They're going to be developing games again not just for the Atari VCS, but also for the Series X and the Play. I remember.
Josh, you there, my friend? You still there?
Yeah.
We lost you. We lost you. So Atari's making games for what?
Oh, hold on 1 second. I think someone's streaming. Give me a minute.
Yeah, it's well, while Josh is there, Atari is what they're saying is Atari is going to start trying to go ahead and attempt to put some games on the newer consoles outside of their own Atari VCS console. They're looking to put games back onto the Xbox One, Xbox Series X, PlayStation 4, and PlayStation 5 once again. So they are going to go ahead and get into more modern systems. So, Josh, they are taking a AAA approach to things in regards to not, like you said, just going to VCS, the Atari VCS, but also modern consoles as well. Interesting maneuver. I wholeheartedly support it, but does that mean we're just going to get an up-res version of Missile Command?
So that's what everyone's talking about. You know, like I know a while back they started working on a new Asteroids game where it was like you weren't just like shooting asteroids, you're also mining them. Like there's a whole narrative behind this, and then that was in development for like 5 years and they just kind of gave up on it. So yeah, I mean, are we going to be getting like 3D versions of like Pong and Missile Command and, you know, Qbert or whatever, or are we going to be like, are they going to actually put some money into these you know, a big AAA title that can you know, compete with the likes of like Ubisoft and EA? Atari's a weird animal, right? Because it's never going to die. You know, it's going to be, unfortunately, there's always going to be some like big guy with money, and they're going to be like, oh, Atari, that's right, that they made some video games way back when, and
it looked cool in Blade Runner.
Yeah, exactly. So there's always going to be someone around to buy Atari. You know, even if it goes out of business, someone else will pick up the pieces and try. It's just a matter of like how many times is it going to fail before it succeeds or before it just fails for good.
Exactly.
All right. Next quick cut is a really quick one. Mobile Suit Gundam Hathaway is released on Netflix, and it's pretty good. The animation is very beautiful. It's funny because Gundam, you know, we talked about Gundam Unicorn back in the day, and it was something where it had a good social commentary. Like it talked about the wars of one generation passed down to another. In Gundam Hathaway, they talk about the commentaries great because they talk about that it's not just a, you know, what happens when one generation has to pick up the pieces left behind by the last generation, but it's actually written by a new generation of like Gundam storytellers. So it's, you know, they're tackling big questions and asking, like, you know, this one's more like environmental, right? Like they're saying all these wars have destroyed the earth and people need to like leave the planet to get the earth to come back, but they have all these normal people talking to the protagonist. And, you know, and they're saying things like, hey, normal people would move, you know, they would gladly go to space, but they can't afford it, you know, and that goes back to that whole like environmentally friendly movements where it's like, yeah, a lot of people would be happy to, you know, make sure to do their part to stop things like global warming or climate change or whatever you want to call it. But a lot of people can't afford that tech, you know, like the stuff that they would need to limit their carbon footprint. So it's just an interesting social commentary, but the animation is very beautiful. The movie is really good. Check it out. It's the first part in a trilogy of new Gundam films slated to hit Netflix. So check that out when you get a chance. All right. You ready for my final quick cut?
I am so ready.
All right. So Ubisoft recently announced that someone leaked that there's a new Assassin's Creed game, and Ubisoft confirms this. They didn't really say anything about it except for the fact that it's a game as a service game, and it takes place across multiple time periods.
I believe it's called Infinity.
Assassin's Creed Infinity, just like Halo Infinite. So I just want to throw a question at you.
Will I be spending my money forever in Assassin's Creed Infinite?
Yeah, well, this is like, you know, we're going to have a platform. We're just going to keep adding games onto this platform instead of like making discs over and over. But anyways, like, do you think that this is going to, people who are big fans of the series, do you think that this is going to diminish like their joy of the series? Because a lot of people I know play it because it's a single player game, right? It has all their content in one space. They could play it. They don't have to talk to other people or deal with any online aspects. outside the fact that you have to always be online to save your game in that game, which is dumb. But do you think that this is going to ruin it for some people?
This might. This very well might. And if that's the case, I think Ubisoft will probably then go ahead and release a standalone game if that's the case. If there's enough brushback, I think they'll have a lot of popularity with it as games as a service. But I think if there's enough brushback from individuals like you that want just the single player experience and don't want to be bothered with all the extra stuff, at some point they could just go the route like Call of Duty. Call of Duty has a games as a service with Call of Duty, and they also have the games that come out every year. So I mean, they've found a way to find niches in both of those environments. And I think Assassin's Creed, if necessary, they can do the same.
Yeah, and I agree. But this kind of like screams that we don't have an end plan. We don't have a game plan here. Like we don't have any idea where the story's going. We don't have any idea how this whole thing's going to wrap up. We don't know what we're doing. We're just like, hey, this time period would be cool, but wouldn't it also be cool if at the same time you can jump into this time period? Like it sounds like there's no direction for this game. And
I've told you this a long time ago, is that the stories themselves, they were supposed to fit together in this one certain timeline, and they stopped doing that. They abandoned that a long time ago.
Yeah, exactly. And this is not, to me, my closing thoughts here is that this is not a good time for something like this, because Ubisoft has all these lawsuits going on, and as far as the sexual misconduct stuff going on in their office, like this is just not a good time for them to like reinvent the wheel, because it just makes it seem that like they're putting, I don't know, they're not putting they're not making this game what it could be because their focus is elsewhere.
We'll see what happens with that. But again, if I think there's enough. If there's enough brushback, they'll go ahead and provide both a games as a service and a standalone game. But for now, it looks like Assassin's Creed Infinity will be the penchant, the standard by which all Assassin's Creed games will go by coming up in the future going forward, unless there's enough brushback. So we'll see what happens there. But if you have any thoughts on Josh's quick cuts, please let us know. popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Well, my friend, there's still much more to talk about on today's program. And remember, on the back half of the show, we've got Marcus de la Garza coming up with his friend, Mr. Daniel Demarin. They're going to be talking about a lot of good things when it comes to they're going to share their thoughts on the Nintendo Switch as well. But on this part, I want to talk about the Black Widow, man. The Black Widow movie came out to theaters. I gave a review on our last episode, general thoughts on it. Thought it was okay. I thought it was not super, but not bad. It was okay. I thought the experience was decent. My daughter loved it, and that makes me happy. My daughter loves things, and I appreciate it for what it was. I think it still came years too late, as far as it's concerned, when it should have been released. I think it should have been released back in 2015. So it kind of felt a little bit outdated in that sense for me. But again, overall, I had a good impression of it, that there was some ups and downs with it, pacing issues, some other things of that nature. But overall, the action sequences were really cool. The ones that were in there, I really thought that the Taskmaster storyline, I thought that was a nice little twist in there in regards to who that is. Can't say that to Josh just yet, but Josh has had some time with it already as far as the movie's concerned. And, finding the Red Room, that was a creative way as far as doing it. Just Dreykov's daughter, as far as the whole thing that they're as far as the whole thing is that, the whole thing with Dreykov's daughter and Natasha Romanoff, and that whole way they tried to tie in everything from even what Loki had explained in the original Avengers movie. I really like the way it ties in there. But again, I think that's the biggest flaw of the movie, is that it just seems like it's out of place in 2021.
Yeah, so one thing I did admire about, it's out of place like right now. One thing I did admire about it was the fact that they did a good job of placing the film though within the timeline of the MCU. I was concerned going into this thing that it was going to be just an origin story, about Black Widow. Like maybe something like after her time in the Red Room and before the Avengers. Like it's going to lead up to the whole Budapest, as they argue how you pronounce it, scenario.
And that's another thing. The Budapest thing it's talked about, but I wanted to see her and Jeremy Renner, interacting, replaying that.
That's what I thought was going to happen. Like that's what I thought this movie was. I thought it was like the timeline leading up to her defection to S.H.I.E.L.D., but it wasn't that. This movie's placed right right in the end of Civil War after the dudes get caught. I want to say this is before the Tony Stark's Captain Rogers fight or after. I don't know.
This is after the Civil War. This is after the entire events of Civil War, and Captain America and Black Widow are on the run.
Yeah, because Captain America hasn't broken the guys out of the
he's not
yet though. So
that's referred to in the film.
Yeah. So they did a nice job with placement. Like I really didn't want to watch an origin film, and that's not what this is. So that was really cool. The action scenes are cool. I don't have much to say about like color palettes as I usually do because
I know, but the familiar part, as far as bringing all the family together, I thought some of it was hit and miss. I think that's part of the deal that I thought maybe weighed it down a little bit for me. I think David Harbour's Red Guardian gets too much of the spotlight. I think he's a little bit over the top. That wasn't really needed.
What's funny about him as an actor is the fact that like he is so not extravagant, but like he's so much he's larger than life, and I don't even think he does it on purpose. I think he's casted in these characters, whether it's Hellboy or Hopper or Red Guardian. He's casted in these roles where that's just what people give him. Those are the roles people give him, and he plays the roles well. But they rely too heavily on that. Like I feel like Red Guardian in this movie so far has been given more like, I don't know, focus than Black Widow or her sister.
Yeah, and that's the thing. But I will say that by the end, that the best part is that they do focus on her and the sister, Florence Pugh, who does a tremendous job in the film. That to me is a real highlight going forward. And they do put a bigger emphasis on Natasha Romanoff herself as far as the entire film is concerned after the part that you're going to go ahead and see, just to let you know. But yeah, it's definitely something that it was a little bit too much Red Guardian for me, but again, they close it out well. They close it out strong. I think it's a very good ending. I want to tell everybody out there, the cut scenes, as far as the end credit scenes, if you read it in articles, what they are already, it's kind of laid out differently since the time that critics saw it. So one hits you right after the movie ends, and then one hits you in the mid-credit scene. It was kind of done differently, I guess, when the critics first saw it. So just go ahead and let you know on that one. But yeah, I just wanted to go ahead and mention it. For me, it was okay movie. I didn't mind it. In fact, I've got it already spotted in my all-time MCU list on and as I rank the MCU. In fact, we got to go ahead and have a podcast. I think we got to get together with all the guys and get everybody together for our rankings total of the MCU. But if you want to see my rankings of the MCU, which includes Black Widow, that's at popculturecosmos.com. In fact, I put it back up as a headliner right there. So you just click on it and you can see my entire list and where Black Widow sits.
Nice. Yeah. I've talked about this. Like I want to go back and do a show or a series where we watch all the Marvel films, including the ones outside of the MCU, since they're all being like tied in through this like multiverse thing. So, and then after I do all that, then I'll be able to put my like true ranking together.
Well, I'd love to do that as well, man. I mean, that's something for bonus stuff. We could put out there. Maybe we should start a Patreon someday or something like that.
Oh, buddy, there we go. Let's do that.
There you go. All right. We'll have to go ahead and set something up for everybody out there.
My final thought on Black Widow here, because I got to get through the rest of it. The Rachel Weisz, I hope they do her justice in the end of this movie, because like so far it feels like her character has developed backwards. Like she had this like really deep, and like you really felt for her in the beginning of the movie when they were, they're on the run and you find out what's going on. but then like she just kind of she felt very deep in the beginning of the movie, and then she felt very shallow throughout like the the middle sections of the movie.
It does flesh her out a little bit more. It does give her a little bit of validation, I will say, at the end. By the end of the movie,
Okay.
her accent does slip into her British accent a couple times.
Yeah, the accent's awful, but I'm telling you, like, she's one actress who I think I truly think deserves an award for something. I mean, she's just so great, and I don't think she's ever actually gotten anything. I know she's been nominated, I think, a couple times.
She's been nominated to my understanding, but yeah, I don't know if she's ever won as well. But
yeah, she's phenomenal on screen, though.
Well, Daniel Craig is Mr. Rachel Weisz, so.
Oh yeah, hey, that's a true power couple there.
Yeah, it's funny at the dinner table they talk about, well, honey, I've got more hit movies than you do now with Black Widow, so there you go.
As he's sitting in front of his Oscar cabinet.
Well, right now he's filming his what's the
Knives Out 2?
Yeah, Knives Out 2. Yeah, and and we're waiting for that James Bond flick to happen. So you're fading out on me here. Okay, I got you all greens again. But yes, it is Black Widow. I want to mention to everyone before we hit the break that it's been a tremendous hit at the box office. In fact, it has garnered over $80 million, the largest U.S. domestic haul of the pandemic era. And also as well, it's gained another $80 million worldwide. Plus, Disney, in a very rare move, in fact, I don't think they've ever done this before, they announced how much they've made in the first weekend streaming-wise. Yes, they did. It's the first time I've ever heard dollar amounts, not numbers as far as viewership, dollar amounts. So they announced not only the $80 million that they earned at the box office, the $80 million that they've earned worldwide at the box office. China hasn't even been introduced yet as a marketplace, so that's still yet to come. They announced that they earned $60 million in streaming from that premium access. So a lot of people were staying home and buying Black Widow this weekend. So a total of $250 million in its first 4 days of release. And that's truly incredible right now in a pandemic.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to ask, if those streaming numbers got looped in with the box office or the two separate entities. But that's impressive, man.
Yeah, that's very impressive. So we'll talk about other streaming numbers here in a minute with the Tomorrow War. But yes, that's something very. Congratulations to Black Widow. We're looking forward to hearing your thoughts on it. Our reviews right there available on last week's PCC Multiverse. But Josh is going to go ahead into more detail on next week's show, his final thoughts on Black Widow. He's going to let some time seep in on it. I know he's got some good thoughts on it coming up for us. But if you have any thoughts on Black Widow, I know TJ Johnson, no Ian Fine, they all want to talk Black Widow, and hopefully I'll be able to drop episodes with them this week. But yes, if you want to talk Black Widow or you want to share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Well, coming up after the break, we're going to be talking about some good things going on with Marcus de la Garza and his good friend, Mr. Daniel Demarin from the Vast Horizon podcast. They're going to be talking some things about Nintendo and also some stuff that I did in regards to watching America the Motion Picture and the Mitchells and versus the Machines. So they're going to talk about all that stuff and more, and a little bit about his podcast, the Vast Horizons podcast as well. And coming up on the back end of that is Josh and I coming back with a little bit on Fear Street, The Witcher Season 2, What If, and did Josh catch the Tomorrow War? We'll hear if it's a King Arthur for us battle once again. We'll talk about that coming up on the back half of the show. This is the Pop Culture Cosmos. And we're back with the show's Pop Culture Cosmos. Want to thank so much again Marcus de la Garza and his good friend Daniel Demarin from the Vast Horizon podcast for going ahead and sharing their thoughts on the Nintendo OLED and all the good stuff that they've caught on Netflix. But my friend, before we head on out, you caught the Tomorrow War. Yes, you did. You heard my thoughts on it the other day. I want to hear yours on Chris Pratt's The Tomorrow War, which, again, is as they're saying, the #1 streaming movie in the world, and also being already talked about as having a sequel on the way.
So, I don't know. Like, it was up and down for me.
Well, for me, it's all down, but go ahead.
well, like it took me a while to figure out like where it was going and what was happening. At first, I was like, yeah, this is like I don't know. This feels like it's trying to be like Independence Day and Men in Black. There's
Very
obviously
much.
a lot of influence taken from John
90s.
Carpenter's The Thing and
The 90s action pictures.
90s action. Yeah, a lot of alien stuff going on in there. So I don't know. Like I think the action scenes were entertaining, you know, but in the way that the have just like the average Joe and they're trying to fight, like that was entertaining, is an interesting concept. But the movie kind of fell flat for me about halfway through. You know, you get to the point, you find out it's his daughter, and like the dynamic between them was very stale.
I just thought the movie, like you said, that was very stale and just written very poorly. It was written very, very poorly. Yeah. I thought it was just god awful. And then Chris Pratt looks depressed the entire movie.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess like okay. So it was I would give it like a 3. You know, it's not great. It's not good.
3 out of 10 for me too.
It's not like it's not in the negatives though, you know, but I think what really irritated
me. Negatives? Wait, a 3 out of what? 5 stars?
3 out of well, I was giving it a 3 out of 10.
Yeah, you know? 3 out of 10. That is a negative.
Yeah, but it's not like a negative 10, you know. So, I guess what really irritated me was the fact that like you get to the end of the movie, right, and they show they're in the snow. Like that had a lot of like a very like Lovecraftian feel to it. You know, the creatures buried in the snow.
But you know, why didn't they get the whole United Nations in on this and get all the forces there? But God forbid you would want to go ahead and have them get involved. But no, they said they would talk too much and that would delay it. So.
That was such lazy filmmaking right there. But you know, they get to the ship, they find the ship, and they find like the whole cargo of these white spikes, and then they show like the creatures like smuggling them, you know, and that's almost exactly taken out of the pages of Prometheus. You know, we find out that the engineers were about to try to wipe out humanity with their cargo, but they open that whole box and then they don't like elaborate on that. Like that was the most interesting part of the movie, that is that someone was carrying these things around to wipe out a species. That was the most exciting part of that movie, because I'm like, oh, that's cool. Maybe this is gonna like get better as the film goes on, because there's still like 45 minutes left, and no, nothing seems to happen in there. They just kind of like, oh well, maybe they were was this meant for planet Earth? We don't know, but we're gonna go and stab needles into these things, and then instead of like putting one in the queen like a smart person would do, or
making sure you have enough people there that have all the vials and have all the syringes ready in each and every one of them to do them all simultaneously. But that would require brain power and thought.
Yeah. Or I mean, the queen gave Chris Pratt a run for his money in the future, so he's kind of a moron for not like attacking the one in the present.
And then speaking of just the attacking of the thing, was it the worst special effects you've seen in some time? The scene where they're fighting at the last minute, and then to save his dad, he actually physically jumps onto the beast, and in order to do so, the CGI had to actually shrink, and they actually had to enlarge the size of Chris Pratt in order to go ahead and make it look like he was jumping on the actual top of the beast.
Yeah, this was some top class CGI, especially when Chris Pratt literally throws a snowmobile at the queen.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's
best part
lazy.
Of the movie, though.
It's idiotic, man. This is one of the dumbest. Okay, I always talk about dumb popcorn entertainment, with Fast and Furious and whatnot, but at least that's fun in a way. Yeah. This was just
it's frustrating.
A chore. Yeah, it's a chore. Let me ask you this. Okay, we talked about the lazy writing and the lazy filmmaking. So in order to save the world, I have to have these certain individuals that I'm supposed to have with me in order to get the job done. Oh, my best friend here happens to go ahead and fill that one role. Oh, in order to save the world, I need somebody that lives out in Texas. Hey, that's Josh. Hey, I need someone else that I know that lives in Florida that maybe can help me. Oh, that's Marcus. Convenient. All this convenient stuff that happened in the movie is just, like you said, lazy filmmaking.
Yeah, and there's so many. What's frustrating about it is that there's so many opportunities for the movie to be good, and then you're like, and then they towards this train wreck.
Are you still with me, man?
Yeah, can you hear me? Am I here?
You're back. Yeah, you went down to a red. You're up to yellow now.
Yeah, we got that Texas weather going on out here, man. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but like you said, it's a train wreck, man. So yeah, nothing but a train wreck.
It
I'm
had
glad
a
to
lot
see.
of. Oh, I was gonna say it had some opportunities to be good, but then they just kind of like were like, nah, we're just gonna let this crash.
Yep, it does. It is like a car wreck. It's really bad. I'm glad to see that we think alike, and this is not a King Arthur situation for us. But if you have any thoughts out there on the Tomorrow War, because a lot of people out there are giving it a passable review and a positive review, so we'd love to hear it. popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. I know my wife saw it yesterday, and she thought it was okay. I know a lot of other people have said otherwise. They're really, I know Josh loves to go ahead and rail against critic culture, but unfortunately, this time he has to agree with the critic culture and that this movie is just bad. But hey, it's obviously done well enough with the $200 million price tag that it warrants a sequel because they're already talking about doing one already. So I guess people are liking it out there. So yeah, share us your thoughts. popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Well, before we head on out, my friend, a couple quick things. Fear Street on Netflix for horror fans. You're our horror, I guess, I don't say expert, but you're a horror fan, a larger horror fan than I am. Fear Street Netflix has debuted this month with a lot of offerings. First week, they offered Fear Street 1994. This past week, they offered Fear Street 1978. And upcoming for this week, as you hear this, is Fear Street 1666. 3 different timelines, still teenager slasher movies. It doesn't deviate too much from that realm as far as what it tries to accomplish. It takes a lot from the horror flicks from the past, and it doesn't seem to try to go ahead and do anything beyond that. It's getting okay reviews out there. A lot of people are just enjoying it for what it is as far as a slasher flick. I want to hear your thoughts on this novel concept of bringing Fear Street Part 2, and Fear Street Part 3 in these 3 different times, in these 3 different time periods.
So I haven't really read up a lot on this. I know Fear Street's based on the R.L. Stine property. If it's what I think it is, and they're kind of like showing the mythology of this this legend that seems to be present in this film, I think it's kind of cool, honestly. Like, you always get horror movies try to like cover time spans too much, and it ends up like there's too much that needs to be told within these like 5-minute clips. And so I think Fear Street, if they're doing what I think they're doing, and they're going back and covering like all the different times that this legend has been a thing, I think it's a really kind of an interesting concept. It's not something that's been done before, but I wonder if the story is going to have resolution by the time that 3rd one comes out.
Well, we'll definitely see what happens. But if you're into slasher flicks, again, they're out right now, 2 of the 3, and the 3rd one's coming out this week. Fear Street Part 1, 1994. Fear Street Part 2, 1978. Those 2 are already available as we speak. And Fear Street Part 3, 1666. 3 different eras, 3 different times for some slashing, hacking and slashing of a different type for all you horror fans out there. But we want to hear your thoughts. Is this a great deal to watch for Netflix horror fans that are out there, for horror fans out there on Netflix? So if they've got Netflix, should they go ahead and tune into this? I mean, we're talking about campy fun with not a great script or anything like that. Nothing too involving, just hacking and slashing away like every horror movie should or does take place. So we'll see what happens with Fear Street, if this is going to be a concept that's going to work going forward for Netflix. But we want to hear your thoughts on the Fear Street concept and the back-to-back-to-back movies. Share us your thoughts. popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. A couple more things to ask you, my friend, real quick. The Witcher. Here, I'm going to toss a coin to you, my friend, because I'm tossing a coin to you as The Witcher toss a coin to The Witcher, because The Witcher season 2 that dropped last week at WitcherCon, along with the announcement that a Witcher anime is coming later this month, again to Netflix. And we talked about Netflix. We weren't sure about what was going on with Netflix, about maybe letting some of these other streaming networks get some pub, get some interest, whatnot. But you know what? Since that conversation, Netflix has done a lot to gain more interest with a lot of great stuff that they have now, and that's on the way, including The Witcher Season 2. That trailer dropped, and it's upcoming this fall. So I want to hear your thoughts on The Witcher Season 2 and the trailer that just dropped.
So I'm excited for this season. I love the trailer looks good. The last season did kind of an interesting thing, like what they did with the book, right? It's a lot of stories being told. You're kind of backtracking a lot and getting the different like chapters from the first Witcher book. The second Witcher book is like that too. It's a lot of stories. And then, once you get into The Witcher Season 3, that's when it's like you're in present time, you're just moving forward. So how much of this second season is going to be backtracking? It's hard to tell from the trailer. Series with him, he's, that was kind of the big story arc in the first season. So how far are they going to be moving forward? Are they still going to be, is he going to be telling stories about the past again, and trying to cover that, the content of that second book? I'm excited either way, but it's December 7th, I think, right, was the release date given for that.
Yes, this winter, December 7th, I believe that is correct. Yes, it is. Like you said, each season covers a different book in the series, so definitely looking forward to seeing what they have to offer with The Witcher. It's been a big hit for Henry Cavill, big hit for Netflix. It has become one of their cornerstone franchises. In fact, they're doing a prequel. I think The Witcher Blood Origin, I think, is coming up. Yeah, I noticed Michelle Yeoh, one of my favorite actresses that are out there, she signed up with this. So I'm looking forward to seeing what The Witcher Blood Origin will do one day when they go ahead and start. I think they're starting to film that pretty soon. So looking forward to seeing what happens there. But The Witcher Season 2, obviously the big ticket, has become one of Netflix's cornerstone franchises. So I'm looking forward to seeing what happens there with The Witcher Season 2 coming up on Netflix. Any last thoughts on The Witcher?
No, I mean, I'm stoked to see what's going on. On another episode, we'll hit the whole thing with CD Projekt Red and what they're working on and stuff. But yeah, I'm excited to see this. They haven't really announced. We don't know when Stranger Things is coming back, so they haven't really announced a lot of like big shows. The big Netflix tentpoles coming out this fall. So it's good to know that we're going to have something to tune into.
And then there's an anime coming out later this month, correct? Based in the Witcher series?
Yeah, I think it's something about The Witcher, something about the wolf or something. I don't remember the title of it. Or Season of the Wolf or Season of the Witch or something.
Okay.
Yeah. So exciting stuff, man. Well, I think the Witcher property, because they're also doing a prequel series. I remember reading that correctly.
Nightmare of the Wolf. The Witcher, yeah. Nightmare of the Wolf.
Yeah. So a lot of good stuff coming out here. So, we'll see how it does. But I'm excited.
Yep. August 23rd. The Witcher, Nightmare of the Wolf debuts on August 23rd on Netflix. And you've also got, again, The Witcher Blood Origins. That's going to probably debut sometime in 2022. And you have in December 7th, from what you're telling me, Josh, The Witcher Season 2. You can toss, actually, 17th, December 17th. Yeah. December 17th, The Witcher Season 2 appears on Netflix. So definitely looking forward to The Witcher Season 2 on December 17th. Toss a coin to your Witcher. But before we head on out, my friend, what if trailer dropped for Marvel's next series as we finish Loki this week? Been a different series so far, so enjoyed my time with Loki. But the What If series drops next month, August 11th, I think, if my memory serves. That drops next month on Disney Plus. But they showed a really extensive trailer for it this past week. Had a lot of footage, had a lot of sound bites from the late Chadwick Boseman, which I know garnered a lot of tears for everybody out there. It had a lot of characters, some of which are the actual voices of some of the MCU stalwarts, some of which are not. I was kind of disappointed that Robert Downey Jr. is not one of the voices involved. I was very disappointed by that. But your thoughts on the What If trailer that just came out and your hopes for the series coming up in August?
So my thoughts on the trailer, it looks cool. You know, like they've done a lot of comic books like this, but I'm not like particularly interested in it. Like I hope that doesn't sound like blasphemous, but I don't like, and I've talked about this before, I don't like side stories and I don't like prologues or whatever. Like I don't know. It just doesn't seem. I'm sure it's going to be interesting, and I'm sure I'll watch it at some point. But it doesn't. I'm not excited about it. Is that blasphemous of me to say?
No, and I think you're going to be a lot like other people out there. It's because it's not a must watch unless Marvel somehow makes it a must watch. But Marvel makes it a must watch. I mean, to me, it doesn't seem like it's going to be a must watch because of the fact that these are going to be all stories that. Let's say, what if, hence the title, what if this had happened? What if this had happened along the MCU timeline? What if this had happened along the MCU timeline? So it's nothing that's going to stick. So I don't know if it's going to be required or must watch for anyone out there. And if it's not, and people are just going to go like, well, why do I need to watch it? I mean, it's just going to be for hardcore MCU fans that are out there. I mean, I'm going to probably watch it. I'm not in love with the art style personally. I'm not in love with the animation style myself. I just don't think it matches well with the voice work that's being done. But otherwise, like I said, I think I could probably get into it, but I probably won't be able to say, it's the greatest thing in the world because, again, it's not relating to directly what's going on in the MCU.
Yeah, I guess my big thing that's pushing me away from it is one, exactly what you said, but two, it's like the comic books, right? They're introducing these like what could possibly be really cool story arcs, and then you're never going to hear about it again. Like they're not going to be elaborating on, one of them is like, Captain America's lady friend, I forget what her name was. What's her name? The girl he dances with, his final dance partner.
Oh my gosh! And you got me going. Agent Carter.
Agent Carter, yeah, they show this on the trailers, right, where she becomes
she's Captain Britain.
Captain Britain, yeah, and like that could be something really cool. But then you're probably they're not going to elaborate on any. You're not going to get any more of that story. So I kind of feel like it's a waste of time, and I think that's why I'm not so excited about it.
Same thing. Like I think a lot of people are talking about the Bad Batch. I mean, the Bad Batch doesn't seem like it's required viewing. It's just there if you want it or you have some extra time to go ahead and check it out. Mm-hmm. I think for a lot of people, that's going to be for What If as well. I mean, it's not if you check out the scenes or what's coming up on the Black Widow movie and you see everything that's going on there, that's required viewing for anyone wanting to stay up on the MCU. If you want to catch the Hawkeye series or She-Hulk or Ms. Marvel or anything that's coming up there, that's required viewing for anybody wanting to go ahead and check out what's going on in the MCU. What If? Unless they actually directly tell you it's going to have something that directly relates to the MCU, I think a lot of people are going to go ahead and tune it out.
Yeah, I agree.
What are your thoughts out there on What If? What if you told us your thoughts on What If? Coming out next month, August 11th, to Disney+. Please share us your thoughts. popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Well, my friend, it's been a great episode. We talked a lot of great things. You had your quick bites all over the place. You had a lot of stuff to talk about, including Black Widow, once again scoring $250 million in its first few days. Great success. A lot to talk about there. But any last thoughts on the way out?
No, I think we covered everything I wanted to talk about. I got all my quick cuts in.
There you go, indeed. Mr. Quick Cut himself. So truly appreciate you stopping by, catching us here on the Pop Culture Cosmos. Tune in on Friday's show where we'll be talking Loki episode 6. We'll be talking some Space Jam coming up for LeBron James and so much more. So stay tuned with us on Friday's show, the PCC Multiverse. Whole bunch of other stuff coming up this week, including some great interviews for the Lakers Fast Break. TJ Johnson, award-winning author Lee Montville's on his book, Tall Men, Short Shorts. You want to go ahead and check out that on the Lakers Fast Break. Here on the Pop Culture Cosmos, you're going to see great interviews from TJ Johnson. Hopefully, I can get him on Black Widow. I can also talk about Noah Ian Fine, fresh from Disneyland, his thoughts on Black Widow as well, and so much more coming up here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. So for Josh Peterson, this is Gerald Glassford. It's another beautiful day in paradise right here in the Pop Culture Cosmos. We thank you for listening. And here's hoping you have yourself a great day. Thanks for watching, everyone.